Okay, fantastic. We ready to go?
Yes.
Fantastic stuff. Good morning, one and all, and welcome to our webinar today. Today's webinar is focused on getting ready with Windows 11. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Gary Byrne, and I'm Managed Services Director here at Nostra. I'd like to start by thanking everybody for joining us today. At Nostra, we regularly run webinars to help educate our customers about cybersecurity risks in the market and how to best protect yourselves against these risks. And you can find all of our previous webinars on Nostra's YouTube channel. We will share details of these in a link after today's session. So to set the scene for today's webinar, just over 2 years ago, Nostra started talking with our customers about Microsoft Windows 10 operating system and that it was becoming end of life in October 2025 and what that meant for their businesses. And since then, we've been working with our customers to ensure that all of their Windows 10 machines across their estates are getting either upgraded to Windows 11 if they can be, or where necessary, are getting replaced for Windows 11 machines. We're getting really close to that deadline date in October this year. And so today we want to go over which not only the importance of getting all Windows 10 machines off your network before the deadline, but also the benefits of upgrading to Windows 11, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. So today we've got a panel of experts who are going to be talking. We have our head of compliance, Jason Burns, and he's going to talk on the risks of running Windows 10 after the end of life date. We have our head of modern workplace, Jaco Kruger, and Jaco's going to talk on what's new in Windows 11 with productivity and performance upgrades. We have our chief technology officer, Gary Melvin, and he's going to talk on security on Windows, how it's built in, modernized and smarter. And then we have our principal solutions architect and co-founder of Nostra, Senan Finucane. Senan's going to talk about planning your upgrade to Windows 11, looking at the devices, looking at licensing, and helping with a deployment strategy, how you would roll out to Windows 11. You know, on any Nostra webinar, we say that these webinars are best when interactive. So please, any questions that you may have during the session for any of the presenters, there's a Q&A box there, there's a chat box there. Just throw them up into those boxes and we'll handle those questions for you. And at the end of today's session, we will keep a few minutes aside and the panel will be there to deal specifically with Q&A. We will be recording this webinar and we will send on the recording and the slides to attendees afterwards. So with that, I'd just like to welcome you all again today, and I'd like to hand over to our first presenter today, who's our head of compliance, Jason Burns, who's going to kick us off.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for attending. I'll move on there to our first slide. So what I'm going to discuss here is what are the risks associated. So this is the compliance side of the house. This is the risk side of the house. But so look, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to look at the time frame that's involved, the security implications around them, what operational risks may be there. What does it mean relative to compliance and vulnerability? And then one of the fundamental risks is it's not planned. So we'll move on there now. So look, what's the time frame? The official date is October the 14th of this year. Now, what does that mean in reality? Well, it means the beginning of October, you will get your final security update for your Windows 10 devices. And then after that, there will be no more official Windows updates from Microsoft to the vast majority of Windows 10 machines. So anecdotally, what might that mean to out there in the wild? There could be vulnerabilities out there that the bad actors are aware of, and they're just waiting for that date to come around, and they know Microsoft won't be releasing updates associated with it. As we said, no further security updates after this, and we must plan the mitigation before the deadline. Ideally, what we must do is we must know what our estate looks like. We need to know who it will affect. We need to know what software it will affect, and we need to know when can we get in the physical replacements to actually deal with that. So looking at our dates now, we have little over 2 months before that date kicks in. So there's our time frame. So what are the security implications of an unsupported operating system? Look, October 14 will roll around and Word will still open. Excel will still open. You can still go on the internet. You can still book with Ryanair. So what's the fuss? Well, look, their unsupported systems are vulnerable to any new threats that are out there. So if a new type of threat materializes that automatically is released for the new ones, it will no longer be released for your Windows 10. No patches means increased risk from that of malware and ransomware. And ransomware is the big driver of malware now. Back in the good old days, it was people looking for it to make a name for themselves. Oh, I did this amongst the community. Now it's a business. And people can sell the ability to be in that business. You can go out and buy kits for $200, $400, and immediately you're there, you're a cyber criminal. So we want to reduce their ability to enact those. So we want to make sure we don't have Windows 10 in our environment. The legacy systems then become easy targets for the cyber attacks. So without those updates, you'll have something that oh, sorry, my apologies. There's one more item here. No longer supported by other vendors. So e.g. the endpoint protection and backup software. So what we see over time is our critical systems that we use to either monitor or maintain or protect our customers, they will reach a point in time where we'll be told, actually, we no longer support. And it could be we no longer support Windows 7, we no longer support Server 2012, whichever it happens to be, but that day will come and we won't be able to protect you anymore from that. Now, what does it look like when it would actually hit? So there's two that would resonate with an awful lot of people. Microsoft had stopped releasing updates for Windows XP in 2014, leaving systems vulnerable. WannaCry was released, I think, in 2017. The NHS in the UK was extremely badly hit, and it cost them in excess of 92 million sterling to remediate at the time. Now, it wasn't all Windows XP, but Windows XP was a chunk of their estate, which made it easier for it to move across the network. In a similar vein, a little bit closer to home, HSE in 2021, 6 months after the initial hit, they still had 30,000 Windows 7 devices. The actual event itself, estimated at the time, cost 102 million euro to the HSE and everyone sitting around this table. And over the next 3 to 7 years, an estimate of 650 million to ultimately remediate all the issues within the organization. So on a practical level, that's what it means. What about operational risks? So day to day, older operating systems are more prone to crashes and performance issues. We all know that machine in the office that we really need, but it's as slow as a wet week. But look, we still need it. It's still needed for that particular task. If something goes wrong with it, the poor IT engineer comes in, sweating bricks, trying to get it back up and running, and it takes 3 or 4 times as long as it would with a new machine because it's on an older piece of hardware as well, which has less performance. So there's our higher maintenance costs, often relying on custom support from vendors or workarounds to keep them working. And then our staff time, where it's not running as efficiently as the modern machines, so your staff aren't actually working as efficiently as they could be. If you say on your insurance premium, well, actually we are using out of date software, well, I think you'll find your insurance premiums won't be as low as they could be. From the compliance and vulnerability exposure. So this is where we have regulations in place or frameworks or acts. So one that affects all of us as business people is GDPR. Fundamental of GDPR is that you have appropriate security measures in place. And it would be an interesting conversation, I think, with someone from the Data Protection Office, where if we were trying to argue having out-of-date operating system when we had an incident was appropriate security measure in place. So what might happen? We might violate regulations. We'd have increased exposure to the vulnerabilities, which would affect when we get audited by a supervisory authority, for example, like the central bank or similar. We mightn't achieve a certification, or we might have non-conformities that over time would result in losing those certifications. And ultimately, risk of fines and reputational damage. So what does that look like? As I say, for all of us, potentially be fined under the GDPR, where it's a violation of Article 32, where organizations must implement appropriate technical and operational measures to ensure a level of security appropriate to the risk. Now, that's one of those lovely phrases, a particular word in there, appropriate. It all depends on what the DPO or similar defines as appropriate when the incident happened, not what we wanted it to be at the time. So you look to see in your system, can I be better? I have an old Windows operating system here. I can be better by getting that out of the gap. Now, onto my final slide, why proactive planning matters. And Senan will go into this in more detail, but at a very simple level, one of the risks is it won't happen in time. We won't be protected. We won't be ready. We won't be trained. So what we need to do is we need to look at it now as one of our fundamental risks. Have we planned this correctly? How can we make that plan better? So we want to get it in as quickly as we can. We want to make sure we can test it appropriately, and we want to minimize the disruption with phased rollouts and training if we can at all. So thank you for your time and that whistle-stop tour of the risks associated with Windows 10. So I'll hand over to my colleague Jaakko now. Jaakko, over to yourself, sir.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Now, obviously, as Jason has mentioned, this is something that we do need to take seriously, but what are the advantages that we get from Windows 11? So faster boot times. Now, this boot time of up to 30% faster is for specific hardware. Not all machines will boot that much faster. If you are looking at specific machines for this, speak to your account manager. But then through direct storage support for apps and having the drivers and firmware integration baked into the faster boot up times, this also makes your machine faster. Now, through smart memory allocation, Microsoft is doing some amazing things in Windows 11 to make your machine faster through multi-core support, through improved virtual memory performance. So if you have virtual memory set up, your performance is a lot better on that. And then snap layout and groups uses minimal RAM. Now, if you don't know what that is, I'm going to show you what that is in a little while. And then it is more energy efficient. So it runs better. The power management is better on this machine, and it's just overall quite good. Just popping on to looking at some of the features. Now, everything that I'm talking about now, I'm actually going to take you through slides for, but we're going to be looking at your smarter multitasking like snap windows, title bar shaking, multi-desktop support, and your start personalization. And then with Windows 11, you have Copilot Plus baked in. Now, Copilot Plus is not Copilot for M365. That still is a separate license, but I'm going to show you what Copilot Plus does, how it works inside of your Windows 11 device. And then we're going to have a quick look at Copilot Web and Copilot Work with the functionality inside of Windows 11. Now, firstly, let's look at multitasking. Now, these system settings under system multitasking will either be managed by your internal IT or by us as your MSP. And this is allowing snap windows. It's also allowing multi-desktop and doing things, for instance, like on your multi-desktop, not taking over your open tabs. And I'm going to show you what that looks like just now. And then your shake title bar to minimize, which is just something else that you can turn on. Now, let's have a quick look. Snap windows. You might have noticed when you hover over the close icon, if you already have Windows 11, this little window pop open. Now, what Snap Windows is Microsoft will auto suggest certain layouts where you can snap in multiple windows at the same time, and it will suggest some files that you have open at the time to automatically show them in there. I selected a 3-bar snap layout. What that does is the window that I had open at the time, it snaps at the right hand side. Then it gives me the option to snap the middle and the left. And this is just another little example of 3 windows snapped, obviously with any confidential information hidden. Now, what is important about this is it's a persistent layout, but also a persistent grouping, meaning that this layout and grouping will stay even if you minimize this window and you're working in other windows. When you come back to it, it is still available to you. Nice functionality, especially if you're working in environments where you have to jump around. between things the whole time. You're not tabbing between windows the whole time. Then title bar shake, interesting little feature that Microsoft added. You might be going straight into a meeting and you have a bunch of proprietary things open, or you have too many things open in your desktop, you're struggling to focus. You can, with your mouse icon, just grab the title bar, click your work button, which for most people would be the left-hand button, hold it in and shake your title bar. It'll auto minimize everything else that you had open, meaning that going into this meeting, you're not showing things you shouldn't show if you have to share your screen. And also, obviously, for you, if you are trying to focus on one thing at that moment, it's a nice way to quickly get focus on it. Multi-desktop. Now, multi-desktop, that is the Windows key and tab together. Now, what this is Microsoft allows you to set up several desktops. Now, there's no limitation on desktops, but obviously each one takes up a little bit of your RAM, but the performance is tweaked quite well. Now, say for instance, I can have a desktop for where I'm busy with development work. I can have a desktop when I'm busy with management meetings, and I can have a desktop when I'm doing customer demos. And I can have, for instance, my demo desktop not have anything go over to it. So in my normal desktop, I can have several windows open. I can be working on several things. I don't have to go and close everything up. When I need to jump into a demo or I need to present, I can just go Windows tab, change over to my demo desktop, have everything minimized and away, and away I work. So nice way for me to just group my information. Quick look at start personalization. Now this you will find under the personalization start settings in your system. You can do things like change the layout of your start, auto show certain areas. But one thing that I found interesting is folders. Now, if you click on folders, it'll open up the pane on the right-hand side. And you can see I have got settings and my documents and downloads open here. And what does that mean? Is now every time I open up my Windows Start menu, at the bottom, I've actually got little icons that will always be there for downloads, my files, and for settings, meaning that the larger pinned ones I can actually unpin and use my top area to focus on apps that I want to focus on. And these ones that I use often are easily available to me right there. Now, let's have a look at Copilot Plus. Now, what Copilot Plus is, like I said, this is baked into Windows 11. If you hold in your Windows key and you press C, it'll open up Copilot. If it opens up the larger Copilot window, just hit Windows C again for it to open up Copilot Plus, which is the chat to Copilot, the smaller one. Now, what's the difference around this one? Things like researcher and analyst you will find in your normal Copilot, but in Chat to Copilot is actually the only place where you will find take a screenshot. So you can say, take a screenshot of a screen that you're working on, and Copilot will analyze what is on that screen and allow you to ask questions around it. Now, just guys, if you do not have a Copilot for M365 license, if you are only using Copilot Plus and Copilot Free, please do not put proprietary information in there. The free version does train the Microsoft model. So if you are going to be working with any confidential information, speak to us, get a Copilot for M365 license in place. That is really important. Now, an interesting feature that's rolled out in America that we're still waiting for is something called Vision, where you can actually turn on the Vision button when you've got this open, and it will live interact with your screen as you're scrolling, and as you're asking it questions, it'll highlight on your screen for you. Like I can ask it, where is the settings for me to change something? It will highlight on my screen for me exactly where those settings are. Like I say, Vision is in testing in America at the moment. Now, having a look at chatting to my Copilot, this is where Copilot in Windows 11 becomes interesting. So with my Copilot that I have now, Copilot in Windows 11, say for instance, if I ask Copilot, how do I change my laptop's display to dark mode, it'll give me the settings of how I change my display to dark mode. But interestingly, if I buy a Copilot Plus enabled machine, that is a machine with a neural processing unit built into it, it'll actually auto change it for me. So if I say change to dark mode, it'll change my dark mode. Change these settings, it'll change the settings on my behalf. Now, again, when you are doing an upgrade for a machine to get Windows 11 ready, if you are interested in such a machine, please mention it to your account manager that you are looking for a machine that is Copilot Plus AI ready so that you can use this neural processing as well. Now, just a little bit interesting extra to make your Copilot work for you in Windows 11. When you open up Copilot Web or Work, whether it's in Teams or wherever you open it up, if you hit the 3-dot settings icon that's right next to the Copilot icon and then click on settings, you will see that it opens up Copilot instructions and Copilot memory as two options that you can fill in. Now, what is important around that? When I go into my Copilot instructions, I can actually tell Copilot every single interaction that I have with you, I want you to bake the response based upon this. So for instance, in my example, I tell Copilot, I don't want anything wishy-washy. I want you to make sure, is it right? Can you confirm this? If the sources are unreliable, I need you to tell me that the sources are unreliable. I need it in this format, and I need you to do it in this specific way. This means that now every time that I ask it a question, it is helping me to formulate the answers better because it knows that that is my standard set of instructions that I use. Now, quick look at Copilot memory. On the right-hand top, you'll see that if I have any chat with Copilot and I start my sentence with remember that, Copilot will actually remember it and add it to my Copilot memory. So here, for instance, I said any translation done needs to be done into English Ireland, and then Copilot will remember that. So going forward, any translation that Copilot does for me, it'll always translate into English Ireland. So between the custom instructions and Copilot memory, I can tweak my Copilot a lot faster, making sure that the responses are more suited to what I am looking for. Now, in Copilot Web and Work, if you go to Get an Agent, you will see some really built-in agents by Microsoft. Of them, Prompt Coach and Idea Coach are the only ones that comes with Copilot Free or Copilot Plus. The other ones are only included in Copilot for M365. If you have Copilot for M365 and you've never used Researcher or Analyst, do yourself a favor, go into Researcher, ask it a question around a certain scenario. You will find it really interesting. You will find Copilot write you a 10, 15, 20-page document in depth around the issue that you're trying to research. Really interesting. Now, the thing with Researcher and Analyst, it could take 10, 15, 20 minutes to run. So give it a bit of time when you are using it. Then just a comment on using advanced queries for better results. Now, I've heard this comment from customers before going, I've used Copilot, I ask it questions, the results are really bad. It doesn't make sense to me. And all of the time when you start working with a customer, you realize that the queries they're putting in is very minimal. Now, with Copilot, you have to be sure to put in a query that it will understand. So here I say, take on a specific role. I want to turn an MFA for a customer. I don't know if they have group policy or Intune in place. I want you to cover all possible scenarios. And this answer actually, if you go through the whole thing, it gives me, this is how you turn an MFA. This is how you do it through group policy. This is how you do it through Intune. This is how you do it through PowerShell scripts. This is what you need to install to be able to do all of these things. And a piece by piece by piece actually gives me the breakdown. Now, if my question was just turn on MFA, my answer would have been really different to what I'm getting. So always really, really important with Copilot prompts. It's garbage in, garbage out. Then interesting around Copilot Work, schedule prompts. So in Copilot Work, if I schedule a prompt, now this is a prompt that I've got on a Friday morning to look at my emails and conversations with the people in my team during the past week and prepare me for my Friday morning internal meeting. Now I've run that prompt once. It gives me a lot of information of what has happened during the previous week to prepare me. Now, once I've run it, you'll see there's a little clock icon that I can hit, and now I can schedule it, and I can say every Friday morning at 8:30, I want you to run this prompt, get every conversation and every email that's happened with my team in the past week, come back and prepare me for my 10 o'clock meeting. So now you're not doing the same repetitive task over and over again. Using scheduled prompts, you can actually automate a lot of these things. And on the left hand side here, this is what is baked in. It's baked into these apps already. Copilot for M365. On the right hand side, there are some apps with partial integration, like Forms, Notepad, Planner, and To Do. And this list is really growing day by day as we go along. Now, I'm going to play you a quick 1 minute video around Copilot, and then Gary Melvin is going to take over. And thank you for your time.
Yako, thank you very much for that. And Gary, just before we hand over to yourself, just to remind people, so already today we've covered, the end date of October 14th and how really important that is, and, the repercussions of still running Windows 10 machines thereafter. And then obviously the huge benefits of the AI and Copilot in Windows 11. And listen, that's everywhere these days. So just to remind people that any questions on any of the topics that you have, throw them up in the Q&A, throw them up in the chat, and we're more than happy to deal with them. So thanks again, and I'll hand over to yourself, Gar.
Thank you, Gary. Just go and share an deck here now. So just on the biggest piece for Windows 11 really is that it's moving now to an AI driven and cloud managed PC. So the biggest changes from Windows 10 into Windows 11 is now that it's cloud managed by default, and it's also secure by default. So this is a big change for Microsoft in terms of rolling out Windows 11. So we've got a lot of Copilot features, and then we've got cloud managed features using Autopilot and also Intune. So Windows 11, big move forward. A lot of elements that were probably available in Windows 10 are now turned on by default. Windows 11 focuses on some more protection. So we have got a piece called TPM 2.0, which is a piece of chip on the board that allows us to encryption and more security features. That is a requirement on all Windows 11 machines. We've got secure boot and some virtualization based security as well that we'll go into in a few minutes. So there's significant difference in terms of security, and we see it as a big move forward into a secure by default configuration, cloud managed PC, and whether you're an Active Directory on premise with a sync out to cloud, what we're looking at now is predominantly moving away from using Active Directory and group policy to manage machines to using Intune and the Microsoft Cloud for managing all those security features using Intune. Security, the console in Windows 11, quite a bit in it. We've got our virus and threat protection. This is all typically now done with Defender. So Defender and Microsoft Security has moved on quite a lot in the last couple of years. So what we're seeing in the industry in general is a move away from third-party security products on top of the machines to using Defender for endpoint, which comes with your Office 365 subscription. We've got advanced account protection. We've got some firewall and network protection. So what we're seeing by default, there's a lot more security controls being turned on, and then these are being monitored in Office 365 security to make sure that the security posture of the machine is compliant with what you guys have set as your policies. So as a basic security or compliance policy, which we call an Office 365, ensures that the antivirus is turned on, it's fully up to date, the firewall is turned on, and then we've got some other app and browser controls to make sure only trusted apps run on those. And it's checking, and Windows and Office 365 are working very closely together, and you're getting reports then on the status of those machines. And essentially, if the machine is not up to date, it's not part of your environment, then it's not allowed access to the applications and the data. And that essentially is what Zero Trust is all about. It's a combination of the user, the device, location, and making sure that the user is coming from the correct device. It is one of your devices, and it is fully up to date in terms of the security profile that you want from it. Trusted platform module. This would typically have been in all laptops. Stores encryption keys. It stores some data in relation to passwords. It's involved in auto sign on, so there's quite a bit there. This is now a requirement. The version 2.0, if you're running old machines, typically it's failing this requirement. Secure boot, this is a big move forward. So there's some elements of the operating system which should not be available to be attacked by malware and other nefarious software. So secure boot is protecting those areas and virtualization based security is doing essentially the same thing. It's actually protecting the most sensitive parts in the kernel or the inner parts of the operating system from attacks. And that is something that would have been vulnerable previously. Um, some improvements around identity and access management, moving towards passwordless, using facial recognition, fingerprint, and PIN codes to access the machine. So what we're seeing in general is that usernames and passwords are pretty much on the way out, and we're trying to get more towards a biometric, facial recognition, fingerprints, or moving towards stronger pins as well. Microsoft Passport is using two factors to sign in, and then we've got Credential Guard from being able to actually have some level of protection from passwords being able to be lifted from the machine as well. So all of these are pretty big step forwards. Some of this was available in Windows 10, but a lot of it in Windows 10 was optional. It wasn't turned on by default. Core isolation is protecting that kernel. The hypervisor protected code integrity is all around only allowing trusted drivers and code run at the inner side of the operating system. Smart apps, this is a big piece. So any application that is not trusted, and this is reviewed on an ongoing basis all the time, is smart app control will block those applications. So if something is trusted today and it's not trusted in a couple of months' time, then it'll come back and look to block those applications. So this doesn't protect everything, but it is a big move forward. And then Windows sandboxing as well as suspicious apps that run in an isolated environment, so they won't impact other pieces of data in the system as well. So there's a lot more features around protecting data and memory, protecting the core part of the operating system, a lot more uh, I suppose, a stronger security posture on Windows 11 as opposed to Windows 10. And there's been big moves from Windows 7 to Windows 10 and now to Windows 11, which is our cloud managed operating system. BitLocker, we've all been familiar with that. So that's some full disk encryption, Windows information protection to prevent some data leaks, and controlled file access, and just this protecting sensitive files and folders on the machine as well. Defender, we've covered off a little bit. So we do see Defender as the de facto endpoint protection solution for Windows devices going forward. So Windows, whether it's a Windows Server or a Windows 11 machine, big move towards Defender. And Defender is not just a endpoint protection or antivirus solution, it's doing much more than that. Firewall, not always turned on previously, now turned on by default, and making sure that access is tightly controlled on the machines. And it changed then to DNS is what's used to talk to servers on the internet to translate DNS names like www.nostra.ie into an IP address. Um, an update to that now is that it's been sent more secure on the Windows 11 operating system. Back into automatic updates, they've changed how they're doing updates, making them a little bit more secure, rolling them up a little bit easier. Windows Security app, which we've seen, centralized security, and that's the information that's been fed up into Office 365. The biggest thing for us is the zero trust piece. So it's zero trust ready, combining with cloud security. So it's making sure that we have that business premium license or something similar that we can actually start putting Intune down onto Windows 11, turning on additional security features that also turned on Windows 11. Intune will turn on about 100 more security features, and then using the Intune on top of Windows 11 to set up what's known as a trusted device associated with a trusted user, and then based on that, allow access to your applications and your data. Other features then in Office 365 that we're taking advantage of, secure access, global secure access to allow users to have access to servers in the office, and also another level of protection while working remotely. So I think in summary, Windows 11 has come about from some of the enhancements required through COVID, the change to remote working. There's a lot more features when you combine Windows 11 and Office 365 security to protect people while they're in the office and also while they're out of the office as well. So it's combining all of that to make sure we're in a much better place. I'm going to hand you over to Senan to actually look at planning your upgrade to Windows 11.
Thanks, Garrett. Thank you. Sorry, Sam, I think you're just on mute there.
Yeah, if someone could just put the slides back up, that'd be great. I just
Oh.
tried to take control there.
Fantastic. Thanks, folks.
Perfect. Let's go on. It's like there.
So just while Senan's doing that as well, folks. So Gary's talked about, policy compliance, and, when we're looking down the barrel of things like, digital operational resilience and frameworks, so on and so forth, having the right operating system that makes your life easier is absolutely key. And a reminder that, questions are there. Throw them into the Q&A, any questions that you may have, and we'll deal with them. Over to yourself, Senan. Thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers, Gary. Morning, everyone. So I'm going to take you through planning your upgrade. So that really involves your devices, I guess, licensing, and then what deployment strategy you're going to adopt, just so that you have minimal disruption, it's cost effective, and then long-term sustainability is baked in as well. So hopefully we can go through that now. So what are the hardware requirements? So the previous speakers have kind of touched upon them as well. So you need a trusted platform module, TPM chip 2.0. You need a CPU that's compatible with Windows 11. You need the very base processor is an 8th gen Intel or AMD, but that really stretches right back to 2016, 2017. So if you have a laptop that's 7 or 8 years old, you really need to be looking at upgrading it really at this stage. The minimum for Windows 11 is 8 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage. We'd highly recommend a minimum of 8, if not 16 gigs, and a minimum of 128, if not 512. And preferably that would be SD or SSD storage or NVMe. And then obviously a graphics card that's compatible with DirectX 12. If I was to pick a sweet spot for year of manufacture, just to make it in simple terms for people, you really don't want to be upgrading to Windows 11 using a laptop that's from 2021 or older. You really want to be going from 2022 and above. And the reason for that is those laptops all came with an 11th or a 12th gen Intel processor. It came with a TPM 2.0 chip, Secure Boot, DirectX, all of that good stuff. And more than likely, it has probably 8 or 16 gigs of RAM, and it probably comes with an SSD NVMe drive 512. Most laptops come with that now. And more importantly, its Wi-Fi card will have Wi-Fi 6 or 6E, which is Wi-Fi 7, the latest standard. And that basically means if you have a corresponding Wi-Fi access point that's Wi-Fi 7, and you also have a Wi-Fi chip in your laptop that's Wi-Fi 7, you can connect at near gigabit speeds wirelessly, which is pretty impressive as well. So there's a big reason why you need to upgrade as well. You can also see, as I've put in a tip at the bottom, you can use the Microsoft PC Health Check tool baked into Windows 10 and 11 to assess your device's capability. But even on top of that, I would really use this sweet spot year of manufacture. If your laptop's older than 2022, you probably need to be looking at replacing it, or 2021 at a pinch. Now we're on to device lifecycle consideration. So do I upgrade or do I refresh my device? So that really weighs heavily on the hardware changes that we spoke about in the previous slide. So if your device is capable or maybe at a push just needs a RAM upgrade, definitely reuse the device and go for the sustainability route, because more than likely it'll run fine under Windows 11 like it did under Windows 10, and you might get another year or two out of it. But again, as I put in the bottom of the slide there, industry best practice is a refresh of device every 4 year if budget allows, 6 year if you're really stretched, but really it is every 4 years you need to refresh your device. But again, you can upgrade the device if it has the corresponding hardware to run Windows 11 correctly. Now we're on to licensing. So if you upgrade your device, you're going to obviously have to have a Windows 11 Pro license to work in a business environment, especially with Intune. So that comes with a Microsoft 365 E3 or E5 license. So you'll get a Windows 10 Pro license. It doesn't come with Business Premium. So you will have to upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11, but it's minimal cost. It's not that much. But again, sometimes it does come bundled with your 365 licensing. So it's worth checking to see if you're entitled to that, or like the slide says, if you're already covered as well. So that could save you at scale. If you have 300 laptops to upgrade, if you're a bigger business, it's well worth checking this out as well. Then we're on to a phased rollout strategy. So in Nostra, we prefer to pilot the device. So first of all, we'll assess what the current situation or the current state of the environment is. Next, we'll do compatibility testing. So a lot of companies run legacy applications, so they may not all be compatible with the leap to Windows 11. So that's why it's crucial to test all of your legacy applications and all of your software, to be honest with you, in a new Windows 11 environment. And that basically requires purchasing one or upgrading one computer to Windows 11 and actually testing it within your environment in the wild, effectively, basically. And then what we do is a phased rollout. We'll pick probably the smallest department within your organization once that POC testing is proved successful, and we will roll out to that smaller department. If that's successful, we'll then roll out to departments, increasing in size as we go until the whole company has been transitioned as well. And the easiest way to upgrade, again, if you have Nostra Cloud Shield, another benefit of using Nostra Cloud Shield, you can avail of Intune and Autopilot to upgrade to Windows 11, which is quite handy, and to auto deploy brand new laptops as well for Windows 11 too. So it's crucial that you use Intune for a smooth deployment and Autopilot. Next, it really comes down to how Nostra can help you. So We can help with device compatibility assessment. So reach out to your account manager if you're unsure as to how many of your current devices within your estate or portfolio are capable of taking Windows 11. Reach out to us. We'll perform a device compatibility assessment and we'll get back to you with a report as to what devices can be upgraded, how much that's going to cost, what devices need to be replaced, how much that's going to cost. And you'll have a really good idea then of what your Windows 11 upgrade will cost in the future. And we can plan it out in stages again. If October isn't too far away now, so we don't have too much time for planning, but I would address this sooner rather than later. You don't want to be that company that goes over the date and then possibly gets ransomed or whatever due to a vulnerability that's exploited by malicious attackers past that date. Because again, Microsoft will not be rolling out security updates, and I just want to emphasize that as well. Yeah, and look, ongoing support and endpoint management, that's all done through your SLA and through Nostra Cloud Shield, so that's all be seamless going forward, so you've nothing to worry about in that scenario. So yeah, like I said, reach out to your account manager. If you have any queries or questions, don't hesitate to ask myself or any member of the Nostra team, and we will absolutely support you with your strategy for upgrading to Windows 11. Thanks very much, guys. Over to you, Gary.
Senan, thank you so much for that. And also Jaco, Jason, and Gary Melvin as well. Okay, so listen, we have a few questions in there. I'm going to ask each of you in a second, you know, a takeaway from each of you. But Jason, you spoke to us about, you know, the importance of the Windows 10 end of life date, October 14th, 2025. You know, questions that came in at the end of Windows 7, you know, people were of the belief that you could extend support for Windows 7, you could extend support for Windows 10. So can support for Windows 10 be extended beyond that date in any circumstance? And what does that look like?
Yes, it can. There is a provision from Microsoft where you can purchase on a per machine basis, essentially bought updates for the year. It's around about 60 euros per device. Now, in the first year, that doesn't sound so bad, but what they do is over time, they then ramp that value up over time. So it's a case then of, on the never, never, but the never, never gets more expensive afterwards. And then even if you're still doing that, you're now still running on the older hardware. You're still now running the older version of the operating system. And while Microsoft might be giving you an update for that, what's happening then is the other vendors are no longer supporting installing their software on those machines, or potentially they're not actually giving you support on running their software on those machines. In other words, if you're still running on those machines, they might decide to say, look, we'll do our best, but there's no guarantee we will fix your problem because you're running an old version of the operating system. So to sum up, yes, you can get more updates from Microsoft. They will charge you for it. The amount of money will increase over time, but you'll still have all the other intrinsic problems with it then.
And Jason, thank you. I think that sums it up perfectly, because people hung their hat the last time, and you know, the belief that support could be extended. But as you say, like, it's really expensive to do so, and you're on aging hardware, and you don't have any of the security benefits, to all the points that were made by Gary Melvin, by Jaco, and by Senan. You know, a properly built and up-to-date machine running Windows 11 is where you need to be. So Jason, I suppose one key takeaway then from yourself, if that's okay.
One key takeaway from it, it has always been that when the vulnerabilities come out, the question is, are you patched and up to date? And you cannot answer that correctly if you're running an old operating system. And if you're in the compliance world in any shape or form, a regulatory world, you have to identify the risks, you have to address the risks, you have to remediate the risks within a certain period of time, and you have to display that you're running your system appropriately, and you can't do that with running an old version of the operating system on the system.
Fantastic, Jason. Thank you so much. And a reminder to people, any questions that you have, please throw them into the chat, the Q&A, and we'll deal with them. Jaco, thanks so much for your presentation. You spoke to us about Snap Windows. I use it. I absolutely love it. But more specifically then, Copilot Plus and Chat to Copilot. This, you know, fantastic features of the operating system there. But would like to talk to yourself about What can Nostra do? You know, sometimes those areas can be overwhelming for people. What can Nostra do to support the implementation of that and understanding of that, you know, with a migration over to Windows 11 with Copilot Plus and Chat to Copilot?
Yeah, sure. So around the Copilot Plus and Chat to Copilot, and especially as well, obviously Copilot for M365, we do offer training sessions around how to best use it, how to best use the prompt, and how to best use it in your environment. And if you are interested in setting up a training session for your staff, feel free to speak to your account manager about that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And then I might ask yourself then for one key takeaway from yourself for the day, please.
Yeah, definitely. Windows 11 is coming, and like everything else, we want to get the best out of it. It is about performance for your staff, and if we are using it correctly, your staff will definitely benefit from it.
Thank you so much for that. And Carol, thank you. I see a question in for yourself as well. I'll throw it out to the team there. We have updated 11 laptops so far. The remaining 4 are post 2022 and need to be upgraded to Windows 11. We tried upgrading one, but got the message your organization manages updates on this PC. So any of the team happy to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. So that's
Thanks, Gar.
typically where you have a Datto or a centralized management of the PC. So it's a matter of just contacting the help desk, and they will allow the push down of that update down onto the machine. So depending on the machine, it may take a little bit of while. So it just needs to be approved down onto the machine and pushed down. So I would contact the help desk, give them the name of the machine, and just organize some time for that update to be pushed down. And to Senan's point, typically, if a laptop is 3 years or older, we usually, for different reasons around the Wi-Fi, around the chipset, it's typically better to replace than upgrade, but that will depend on budget and everything else. But so every organization is a little bit different. Some of our customers will run machines for a little bit longer, some for a little bit less. So depending on what your status is, then that is good. One of the things from myself and Jason's point of view is that if you can use Windows 11 to just make sure that we're doing more stuff around the applications that we run on the machine, it's a big opportunity to tighten things up on how we roll stuff out, being more secure on the devices, and move to that zero trust type setup. It's not just a Windows upgrade, it is a move towards AI, but more importantly, it's a move towards a stronger security footprint. So cloud managed Windows 11 with Intune will put you in a much better place, not only for today's threats, but for the threats that are coming at us over the next couple of years, because we see AI as a tool that will enable threat actors to come at us quicker with more sophisticated types of attacks. But if we can get to that zero trust piece ahead of that, then we're in a really good position.
Gareth, thank you for that. And I want to delve into the policy bit, which is just in a second, but just an update from Carol. And Carol, thank you. Just to comment that the 4 machines in question were checked by Nostra in January and told that they should be fine to upgrade to Windows 11.
Declan will push down that update, Carol. If we give us the name of the 4 machines, we'll get that done, and then it'll take it. We don't push it down automatically because it will take the user off that machine for a good piece of time, and some machines that can happen to, but others we don't want. It could be a critical machine. So if we give the 4 names and a range of time, we'll get that done.
And thank you. And I mentioned earlier in the webinar about DORA, digital operation resilience, but there's NIS 2, and you know Jason Burns talked about GDPR. So Jason, working with head of compliance, and then Gary Melvin, yourself, in the cold face of dealing with cyber attacks on an ongoing basis. I mean, this is the world that we're living in now. You know, how much easier does it make your life when you are looking at attacks to work with a Windows 11 machine, given the tools that you have available to you to try and protect yourselves from these things in the first place, and then try and report on them afterwards?
So one of the things from my side, and I'll let you go next then, Jason, is that after post cyber attack, and it's just good practice anyway, is you just want to let trusted machines back onto the network. So
Mm.
combining Windows 11 with Intune allows us to have a list of trusted machines, whether they're working remotely or wherever they're working. So 11 plus Intune, cloud managed, puts us in a really good position. And then if we have the use of autopilot and other tools as well, there's a lot more security functionality there that for us to make use of.
I just want to add, because a nice segue, Gary, you went into Dora there.
Yeah.
If you continue to use Windows 10 beyond the end of life date as well, it can be considered a compliance failure under Dora. And that goes for GDPR as well, that you're not sufficing or fulfilling your GDPR obligations if you continue to use an unsupported operating system from the vendor. That goes for ISO 27001 as well. You will be flagged as non-compliant if you continue to use Windows 10. And then for anyone that has Cyber Essentials as well, I know it's a UK-based standard, but a lot of Irish companies have it as well because they deal with UK companies. You will be flagged as a failure with Cyber Essentials if you continue to use Windows 10. And that holds true for PCI compliance as well. So for the top 5, GDPR, DORA, ISO, PCI, and Cyber Essentials, it's not a good situation to be in continuing to run Windows 10 after that end of life date. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
thank you, Senna.
that's correct, Sen. And it's a case of you're not demonstrating that you're addressing the risks.
Exactly.
You're not demonstrating that you are maintaining the system with an appropriate level of security. And going back to your question, Gary, what does it look like on the coal face if we have Windows 11 versus the older machines? The Windows 11 machine integrates much better with the newer tools at our disposal. So one of the key things we need to be able to do is audit and do our forensic investigations. And the more tighter the newer operating systems integrate with those tools makes our after immediate incident much better. Now I know we're running tight on time there, so I'll finish up quickly there and back to yourself, Gary.
Fantastic, Jason. Thank you so much for that. And Gary, probably just one key takeaway, I suppose, for yourself for the day.
I think look at it as an opportunity to review what's been done in terms of applications, how we're setting up the machines for remote access. I think zero trust is something you're going to hear a lot about. So every Windows 11 machine going out should have Intune on it, making sure that we have that footprint on it, because that's the agent that will allow us do a lot more security features on it. So when you're getting Windows 11, combine it with Intune, combine it with some of the additional security features, and then you will be ahead of the curve of what needs to be done. So cloud managed, all the security turned on, and whatever applications are going down onto it. And this conversation I had earlier on today with somebody else was making sure that there's the list of applications that can be updated that goes down onto it. So use it as an opportunity just to tighten everything up from a security point of view and from an access point of view.
Fantastic, Gary. Thanks so much. Senna, you spoke to us about a phase rollout there. So we had a question here, and so I'll give that to you and then ask you for a takeaway. Recommended approach to managing the phase rollout in a hybrid work environment. So I don't know if that changes from what you talked about earlier.
No, it doesn't really. Phase 1 is always assess compatibility and readiness so that you know exactly what you've got and where you need to get to. And that's i.e. Really related to what laptops you have and what hardware you have. Then define a rollout phase. So basically start with a pilot group, early adopters, and then push to a full rollout then once you're happy that everything meets compatibility. And then an awful lot of what Gary spoke about and what I'm going to talk about in phase 3 is automated deployment with Intune and Autopilot. All of this good stuff comes with Nostra Cloud Shield. So I can't emphasize enough. You need to move to Business Premium and to Nostra Cloud Shield, and you'll get the vast majority of what we've talked about over the last hour by default. And then fourthly, then planning licensing and cost. In some cases, if you have a large amount of Windows 11 laptops to upgrade and you're not entitled to a Windows 11 license, it might make sense to upgrade from Business Premium to an E3 or an E5, and you'll get even more security and productivity for the same price that you would have paid for an upgrade of the operating system anyway, so it might make sense. And then finally, it's really just communicate to all the end users what the change coming is, why it's needed, and what the benefits are going to be in the future as well. So that's the approach I guess I would take, and obviously use Nostra as your partner, or leverage Nostra as your partner for support and for strategic guidance during this whole hardware upgrade as well.
That's a valid point, I suppose. And anyone on the call, feel free to reach out to and we can have a conversation just on to go into any of the pieces on Windows 11. Yeah, co-available on Copilot. There's a team here to help you. So if there's any questions in any particular area, we love chatting to you. So just drop us a line and we'll arrange a call.
Perfect.
Fantastic. And Senan, Gary, Yako, Jason, thank you so much for the presenters today. Just to wrap it up, a couple of bits and pieces. You know, your account manager will have reached out to you in relation to upgrading to Windows 11. Please, you know, engage with your account manager or reach out to your account manager. If you haven't already upgraded or replaced machines for Windows 11, it's critically important. If there's any people on the call who don't have an Nostra account manager, please reach out to myself directly. My email is there, gary.byrne@nostra.ie. I will say that in moving Nostra customers over to Windows 11, we have engaged with our partners, so Hewlett Packard being a big partner of ourselves, and we have an offer on the table. So if you replace your machine for a Hewlett Packard machine, there's up to €450 that you can claim back off a machine. So it is really, really worth engaging with your account manager and having that conversation. And I mentioned at the top of the conversation, this webinar is available on Nostra's YouTube channel, as are all of our cybersecurity webinars. Slides and access links will be sent after the session. So we're on time. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us again today and wish you all good luck with the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.